"This is the best day of my life." That's what the 10-year-old boy said, smiling, looking up at me. It was his first day at Archbold's ecology summer camp. "Yeah, it's the best day of my life too," said the other boy next to him. Those two and about a dozen others, 7 to 12-year-olds, had just climbed a tree and jumped off a towering 4-foot perch, soared through the sky, and landed on the soft ground. The old live oak with its sturdy limbs and mighty roots offered another generation the chance to find the confidence to defy gravity. Before this, the students had enjoyed a swamp buggy tour of a cattle ranch. They met ecologists, pointed to alligators in the ditches, listened to the meadowlarks singing on the fence posts. We stopped in a wooded area so that we could try to talk to the barred owl that lived there. And we did, and it talked back to us and flew overhead. I would teach you how to do it, but I know not everyone is as big of a fan of learning bird calls as I am. Now we're in a flooded field, and there's a girl standing there, drenched in mud. She has gloves on, mud all over them, and she looks astonished and looks up at me and says, "I really like this. And I'm the girly girl of my family. I don't do this." But her teacher had encouraged her to come to summer camp too. Just before that, the reason she was all muddy is that the ecologist had taught her how to look through cow dung for beetles, which she loved, and her world will never be the same. Archbold's rules for field trips and summer camp. If I need your attention, I'll clap like this. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum. And then your job is to finish it. Bum, bum. Okay, so we'll try. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum. Very good. Okay, maybe introduce yourself to the person next to you, chat a little, say hi. Hi. Maybe they said something funny. Ha, ha, ha. Bum, ba-da-dum, bum. Perfect. You're ready for camp. At Archbold, we've banned the use of 3 words. Ew, yuck, gross. If we're out there hiking and we find a big pile of animal poo, you're not going to say ew and walk past, because today we're scientists, so we're going to say cool. We're going to find a stick and we're going to poke it and see what it is and what's in there. That's what science education sounds like in the Florida Wildlife Corridor at Archbold Biological Station, where I'm the program director of education. It's active, sensorial, social, immersive, often outdoors, and often involves kids interacting with researchers, with our ecologists. Our education team, we try to model presence, wonder, and playfulness, and we facilitate with loving attention and compassion for all of the kids. Humans are creatures of story, bombarded by sensations. We have to filter through that, arrange that data. We construct meaning by finding patterns that make sense to our values, our beliefs, and we add to our personal stories. When I'm with students of any age, I'm hoping that something that we do gets through those filters and sticks with them. So lesson time again. The first informal law of ecology. See if you can help me. Everything is... Okay, everything is connected. Nice job. Everything is connected to everything. The sustainability compass. N is for nature. E is for... We already have nature, so it's not ecology. E is for economy, S, society, and W, wellness. Can't have sustainability without nature, economy, society, and wellness. Hopefully some of that made it through your filters. You've heard that people will protect only what they love. Yes, that's part of what we do. Try to give kids the chance to love nature and science. Yes, but it isn't enough, not nearly enough. The corridor's rural lands are undervalued by the public, but Floridians and visitors, they do love a lot of wild Florida. There's always people at the beaches and at the parks. People are swimming with manatees. They're going to the springs. They're watching the alligator wrestlers. But even so, we continue to have environmental problems, things like the loss of habitat and connected lands for wildlife. We need win-win solutions. It's difficult because we are expert consumers, but nature is not a product. Nature is heritage and legacy. Nature is health and community. Nature is relationship and bounty. Nature is a mother that takes care of us, but we have to take care of her too. Nature is not a product. Environmental issues are complex, but I do want to focus on one that I think environmental education addresses at Archbold. I think in Florida we have an identity and imagination problem. We have an autobiography problem because the story we tell ourselves about ourselves and how we should work in the world isn't working. We need a new story. If you asked everybody in Florida right now to write their memoirs, how many of them would include the type of habitat that was there in their neighborhood before the neighborhood was constructed, or the watershed that they live in? Or would they acknowledge the thousands of years of cultural activities on that land? And that's not to mention the many children whose families never even take them out into wild Florida. Now, what part will nature play in those children's self-image, in their autobiographies? Well, the solution, I think, is the land. And that's literally the common ground that brings us here today. But land is also a vessel for cultural knowledge, for memory, for identity, for imagination. For example, in Florida, the Seminole tribe of Florida and the Miccosukee tribe of Indians in Florida, they remember that the Kissimmee River was formed when an ancestor transformed into a serpent. And that Lake Istapoga, which means people have died here, was a place of dangerous supernatural power, and maybe still is. For us, like me, that are not indigenous to North America, our ancestors had place-based histories too, where mythic truths and experience of the land intertwined. But they left those ideas long ago and far away from Florida. So here we are, their descendants, struggling to find a way to live sustainably, to find our story. Ecology and economy share the same root word, oikos, which means home. We're only partly rooted here. Therefore, the environment and our economy are only partly sustainable, which is another way of saying they're not. So in Archbold's educational outreach for school-age children, we've taken the approach that incorporates identity, sense of place, connection to nature, and combine that into our science education. Students learn to read photographs, practice imaginary play, and have time for reflective writing. Specifically, I'm talking about a multi-part activity called My Science Future, which is what a lot of the slides are that you're seeing behind me. This is an activity that supplements the other ones I talked about, like immersion in nature and interacting with researchers. And it works like this. First, the students view and discuss photos that I took of adult, professional researchers, ecologists, and then they draw a picture of themselves as a scientist. Then they dress up as scientists, and we have boxes of clothes and tools they can pick from for this. It's really fun to watch them decide what to do. They can either really try to be a specific thing, or it's just a mishmash, and they grab, they're like part herpetologist and part land manager, and it's really fun. Then they look at those photos after I've edited them on Photoshop, and they have these professional, so we take the photos, and then I edit them and give them to them, and they look at them, they reflect, and they write a message. It's pretty open-ended. They can write basically whatever they want. And then they receive a framed copy of the photo of them and their writing. And then my hope is that that'll stay in their home for years and years. And parents have said that that is the case. So I want to finish up by having us listen to a few of their writings. And I've had a couple of them pop up on here. But let's have an ear to the various ways they're incorporating nature, science, and conservation into their identity. I feel that animals are my best friends. I really want to be an entomologist. I've always loved being in nature and collecting insects. I love to dress up as a scientist. I'm holding a deer skull because I hunt these. I hunt these with my dad. I think you should treat nature fairly, and you should not pollute nature. I will help any animal that's not feeling well and protect nature and the wildlife it has. I love the earth. I love the sea. I love the fire. I love the air. I love my life. I want to save the animals. Nature is something that lights up your future. I chose to be a land manager because I know what invasive species are doing to the environment, so I want to help. And then another kid, because I want to light things on fire. Everybody has their own path. Take care of the air because we need it. I believe that animals should be treated how we want to be treated. We want to be treated with kindness, to be treated fairly. We're all living things. And the last one. The birds and the wings are equal. They represent freedom, being able to leave your home, being free, being able to see the night sky every day. See, the beauty of nature is everything, the bad, the good, everything. So in closing, the Florida Wildlife Corridor movement is a step toward finding a new story for Florida. And I hope future generations will remember this as the time Floridians let their roots become mighty, the time we followed the path of the panther, the time when everything was connected to everything and we knew it, the time when we declared, "This is the best day of my life." Thank you.